Ndewo, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this very special libation ceremony. Chiism Live. Thank you for joining us. I would like to welcome my sisters who have joined me today. Akachi Ndewo. Can you hear me, Akachi? Unmute yourself. Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Simone,
morning.
good morning.
Good morning.
Beautiful in your white. Akachi, it doesn't appear that you can hear us. Can you hear us, Akachi? Can you hear me? Is she muted? Akachi, can you hear me? Akachi. All right. She's not hearing me. I'm not sure why. You may have to unmute yourself. But anyway, she'll get around to it very shortly. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we are celebrating Chiism using feminine energy to pour libations today. As you know, we see Chineke, the creator, as both feminine and masculine energy. So because our conversation today is focused around the importance of women in society, spiritually and in every way, we are going to be using feminine energy. So I am glad to be here today with you. We all made a choice to be here today. I just want to honor you for being able to stand wherever you are as keepers of our culture. Wherever you are right now, I need you to stand up. I need you to be grounded. We are doing this work in honor of Chineke, in honor of our ancestors who have helped us to convene here today. So I want you to stand up wherever you find yourself. I just want to invite us to plant ourselves. You may not know what libations is. It is about what I just said, honoring the creator, honoring Chineke, honoring our ancestors, honoring ourselves, honoring our children to come. And we are planting ourselves on the ground as one people, as African people. I ask you, wherever you are right now, get comfortable in place. Touch something, whether it be your seat, your wall, the floor, anything. Touch something. But I ask you to stand on the floor as we take a breath with each other. We say, Kulieume ge kupu. Kulie is to breathe in. Kupu is to let it out. So kulieume kupu. With this breath, I want you to take a moment and visualize yourself in the roots of your body going down through the carpet and through the floor, through the concrete, to the water that is underneath, the water that is beneath, and we release all the distractions and craziness of the world. We release all our cares into the water today. As we inhale, we take in the beauty and the nourishment of the water so that we become buoyant over this week. And we're able to be full and free and open to meet and be with different kinds of people and come up with different ideas through work that we do, through projects that we may engage in, to the dreams that we have, that we are fluid. That's the thing about water. It gets in all the cracks and spaces. It gets everywhere. And the fluid in our body helps us to accept ourselves. So as I pour libations today, I ask the sisters today who are helping with the libations today, some of them, okay. All right. All right. Now you guys disappeared for a moment there. Don't know what happened. Akachi is still mute. Unmute yourself. Okay. I'm going to need you. I'm going to need you. She's still muted. Okay. I'm going to pour libations now. And I want you, Adora, Simone, Akachi, and everyone else, wherever you are, when I say Ise, I want you to say Ise. Ise means that we want whatever we ask for to become a reality. We ask, and so it is. And we ask for our blessings to manifest 4 times. So I pour libations today, asking for unity for us as we are planted on the floor and our roots are going down to the water. May it take away all the bad things that may have happened to us last week. May you all wash away. Somebody say, Ise.
Ise.
For everything that we had accomplished, for everything that we looked forward to and got it, we say thank you to Chineke, and we say Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour libations today and ask for the unity of the world, unity of African people, unity of sisters, unity of brothers, unity amongst children. We ask that the feminine energy is active to unify all of us. Somebody say Ise.
Ise.
Pour libations and ask for each and every one of us to dream as big as we possibly can and not worry about what people think, because the Most High, the ancestors, have already laid the path for us. So go after it. And in unity, we find acceptance. In unity, we get other people who will see our dream and vision and maybe help. And even if they don't, the greatest energies in the world, Chi and AK and the ancestors have already laid the path. They already have agreed that we are going to get what we need. Somebody say Ise.
Ise.
We will work this week. We ask the ancestors and Chineke to make sure that we work as a collective entity, that everything each one of us touch turns into gold, and any one of us who's struggling, we will be prepared to help. Somebody say Ise.
Ise.
We must understand that our role as we pour libations today, as we represent Africa, as we represent our culture, we know that our purpose in this world is to help each other. One sick woman is too much. One sick man is too much. We have a responsibility to help one another, to pull each other up. If you climb the top, make sure that you look down and see who's struggling to climb. Collectively, we'll pull that person up. Somebody say Ise. If you see a brother and sister doing something, support them. Support them. Put your loving arms around them and help them get to point B from point A. Somebody say Ise.
Ise.
Our role in this world is not just to inhale and exhale. Our role as mothers, as sisters, our role is to nurture, to make sure that the world is healthy. If it's not, we use our feminine healing spirit to nurture and bring people up, get them out of their sickness, get them out of their depression, whatever is going on in the lives of women, we are responsible. Whatever is going on in the lives of our men, we are responsible. Our sons, our daughters, we ask that the Almighty Creator and the ancestors help us remember why we're here, that we have a purpose in this world. Somebody say Ise.
Ise.
May we use everything, every power, every creativity in our bodies to make sure that this world is greater still because of us. We are the women. We are responsible for bringing life into this world. So we are responsible for healing that life. We're responsible for uplifting that life. We're responsible for making sure that that life we bring in succeeds, even when we're no longer here, that they continue to move forward, generations upon generations. Somebody say, Ise. As we pour libations, let us believe in each other. Let us look back to Mother Africa and remember all those who are there, those who are struggling, those who are sick, those who have nothing to eat. What is it we can do? Poverty is not a state of mind. Poverty is reality. So if we know people who are suffering, who don't have enough to eat, we must today, from now onward, we as sisters must ask, what can we do? Somebody say, Ise.
Ise.
And we pour libations to remind each other. We pour libations to remind each other that the fact that we are standing today and we're rooted in the water that connects us. Water is everywhere. It's in your body. 96% of your body is water. Water is everywhere. Water is part of the blessings of life. And so when we pour libations, we're letting that water reach and touch everyone, not just us individually, but everyone. Somebody say, Ise.
Ise.
Water for peace, Ise.
Ise.
Water for love, Ise.
Ise.
Water for good health, Ise.
Ise.
Water for good family, Ise.
Ise.
Water for peace in the world,
Ise.
We pour water for children who are going to school. We ask Chineke to help them, let them understand what it is they're doing. Let them understand that education is not about learning about other people. They must know about themselves. Somebody say, we ask the ancestors to remind our children what they want. They must ask for, they must fight for. Nobody's going to give it to them. So as you work in school, don't expect it to come easy. Somebody say, Ise. You have to work hard. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you're important. African children everywhere must be reminded that their history cannot be hidden. Somebody say, Ise.
Ise.
Not allow anybody to hide their history. It is their responsibility to make sure that their history is known, if not to others, but to themselves. Somebody say, Ise.
Ise.
If I go for come Korunweba, if I like Patorota, I go Gunzu. I go Gunzu. On your see Fanya de Yama, almost sank to your name at the Yama. Okay, Chineke Kama. Mototo, Ise.
Ise.
Okay, Ise.
Ise.
I want you to call upon the names of Chineke in your tongue, in the language that you understand best. Chineke for me, Chineke. Olodumare. Tamuna.
Yes.
Jinyami.
Ise.
Katonda.
Ise.
Inkos.
Ise.
Moari.
Ise.
Uvuzilele.
Ise.
Ukulunkulu.
Ise.
God has a name in different tongues. So we call upon them. There are those names that we have not used, but we know they are there. And spiritually, we call upon the name of Chineke in the language that we have not heard today. But spiritually, we call upon that name.
Yes. Ise.
We pour libations to our ancestors.
Yes.
It is because of them that we're here. So we are walking in their footsteps. Somebody say, Ise, and say it now. Ise. We pour libations to thank them for all that they did to bring forth our culture. And it is our responsibility to keep that culture. We pour libations for ourselves because we are the ones that are responsible for what happens tomorrow. Somebody say, we pour libations in honor. I make a low wine. I see Chineke gozi because I knew I'm that tomorrow is pregnant is because we are pregnant with tomorrow.
Yes.
We will birth tomorrow. We will
He
birth goodness tomorrow.
Yes. He said.
Somebody say, he say,
He said.
He said.
we pour libations in honor of the children who are already here.
He said.
We want to raise them right, he say.
He said.
He said.
We want to give them all they need, he say.
He said.
We know that the future is bright because of them. But we
He
must
said.
put in them what they need to know.
He
We
said.
must not allow others to train them for us.
He
He
said.
said.
The lion does not birth a lamb, so we should not create lions in the serengeti, or they will be eaten.
He said.
We are lions and lionesses, so we raise lions and lionesses.
He said.
And that's the way
He said.
we pour libations in honor of those babies who are yet to be born. May they come into this world strong and powerful and prepared to grow and lead.
He said.
I ask you now, call the names of your ancestors. Okay, on your
Frederick Raphael Hammond.
no, on your Obi Wilson, Daddy Bowman, also
He said.
Ebehi.
Priscilla Cosby.
He said, Martin Luther King. He said,
Helen Porter.
Oh, it's
He
Rania.
said.
he said,
He said.
Nelson Mandela. He said, he said, there are so many
Marjorie
names.
Lockett.
Oh,
He
he
said.
said, he said, he said,
He said.
he said,
Yes.
Mama Cosby. He said,
Luella Urban.
Penny.
he said,
He said.
he said, yeah, guys, yeah.
He said.
He said,
He said.
he said,
Louise Brown. He said.
he said, yeah, guys, yeah. I want to end our libation with this song. A reminder that God's time is always best. And even in our struggle, even when we don't feel good about something, remember that the power is there watching over us. So everything we experience is temporary.
Yes.
It's not permanent. No condition is permanent. Ogenke Chineke kama chere ya nu ma bụrụ na oge ahụ dị anya chere ya ekwepụlanụ ka obi gị gaa mba chere ya mgbe oge ruru ọ ga-abịa akwa chere ya Chukwu nke igwe na-echeta gị chere ya na ọ dịghị mgbe ọ na-echefu gị chere ya n'ezie n'ihe banyere gị ha niile na-emetụ Chineke n'obi chere oge ya. Now wherever you are, I ask you to bless this prayer. There are libations today. Let us clap and honor Chineke and the ancestors.
He said.
And so it is. Thank you, my sisters. Thank you for blessing us today with your presence. Thank you for all the essays that you said that has just latched onto the walls and will stay with us until we meet again. Y'all guys hear?
Yes, yeah.
Yes,
What it is. Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you and welcome. Welcome. I hope you enjoyed the libation ceremony because you know libations is the first thing that we do before we get started in anything. It is indeed my pleasure, as always, to welcome you to Chiism Live and welcome my wonderful, wonderful co-host, Dibia Chwaja, Yudi. Imare.
Oh man, I'm so spiritually filled this morning with the libation, you know, with the ladies, esteemed ladies that joined you in this libation ceremony. I am just so thankful for you, thankful for them. and thankful for all the people that joined us this morning. Chineke de Ebube. Yagazie.
Yagazie, and of
Yeah.
course, Ochwaja, Chiedozie, Okoro Imageka, no welcome.
Ndewo no ya gazie no.
Ndewo.
Yagazie.
Yes, so you see, the hen has protected his chicks. You
Yes.
see, the feminine energy. The mother will always fight to protect her children. So that's what
Yes.
has been done today.
True,
So
true.
may the feminine energy guide and protect us.
Yes.
As the earth itself is feminine.
Yagazie.
Yes. Yagazie.
It is my pleasure to welcome one of our guests today, Ajamu Ashiki. How are you?
Yes, I'm fine. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me to the show. And thank you very much.
You're welcome. Ashiki is the daughter. I mean, the son. I'm sorry. Well, it's feminine energy now. Everything is feminine. Well, Ashiki, he's the son of Queen Mother Oshundara. She was a powerful, powerful spiritualist in the United States, not just and Jamaica as well. She's known everywhere for her spiritual work, for her work in African culture. Wherever she went, she took African culture with her. She has now joined the ancestors, and we are so grateful that we can call upon her name, during libations. So welcome, Ashiki.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and of course, we want to welcome Ochwaja Ikenna Osimiri, who is the High Chief Priest for Chiism for the United States. And I think he's having a bit of a problem with his video. So we are going to kind of wait till he's able to join us. But I have a question for you guys. It is a given, without me saying it. There's no secret that women generally get the short end of the stick, so to speak, when it comes to how they are treated and viewed in the world. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about it. It's pretty safe to say that women do all the work. We do a lot of the work, but the men take the credit. I'm keeping it real. It means that the society does not recognize what happens in the event there are no women. So I'm going to start this conversation by going to, Kenna is there.
Good morning.
Chief, you joined.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. We're just talking about putting her on the table now. Let's talk about it. Ikenna Osimiri, let's start with you. What are your thoughts about the significance of women in the world?
This is a very deep subject, and as I prepared for this subject, I was very disturbed, very enlightened by the information, and I have someone that I took some information from as I listened to a presentation, which I have never heard before in all the years that I originally was in the Baptist church. I transitioned to the Apostolic Church, and then I stepped out of that, and after research became a very ardent supporter of African traditional religions. And I did that based upon the historical information that showed me my history as it was present before anybody else, before Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Let me start out, before I start this, I want to have us understand that as we deal with the Bible, the Torah, issues in Islam, that we have to look at the language. And we have to understand that a lot of our misunderstandings come out of the fact, and our inability to understand come out of the fact that English is a very paternalistic language. Judaism is Hebrew, I'm not sure, but it still reflects some of that paternalism. And Arabic, out of which the Quran is written, is a very, very paternalistic language. And there is some movement among women scholars to help to refocus the writings of the Torah as more gender, without the gender bias. So let me start out by quoting you some information from Foundations of African Thought by Chukwunero Kamalu. This book is from my library, and it's about the worldview grounded in the African heritage of religion, philosophy, and science and art. As the author states, he says, one needs to distinguish also between Christianity as a religion and the use to which it was put. Religion has in history always been a primary tool in the colonization of or subjugation of people. Amilcar Cabral discerned that the idea of foreign domination, whether imperialistic or not, would be to choose either to liquidate, either to liquidate practically all the population of the dominated country, thereby eliminating the possibilities for cultural resistance, or to succeed in imposing itself without damage to the culture of the dominated people. That is, to harmonize economic and political domination of those people with their cultural personality. In other words, the conquest of a people requires that the colonizer either exterminates all of the people, in which case the colonizer would then have no subjects, or indoctrinate the people into accepting subjugation with little or no resistance, since the aims and aspirations of the colonizer would then appear to be in harmony with that of the colonized and for the benefit of the colonized. And religion has really been used to that end. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to be drawing from sources from the Bible, from the Hebrew Torah, and also from the Quran, because I feel it's very important. Our subject deals with the divine value of women. And I want to say that the views I'm expressing are not necessarily those of StreamYard, nor are they necessarily the views of the host. And so because we are going to be taking on everybody. It's very important. I want to start with our concept of creation as presented by the Bible. And the last time we audited this, there are 6 creation stories. 2 of them are in the first book of Genesis. There's one that there's the creation story in the Torah also, which compares with the 2nd chapter of Genesis creation story. So I'm not going to read that one because there's some problems with that version in it. And one of the problems that I found is that there is a presentation on valuation of gold. And my question to that would be, how can you, at the very beginning of man, when there was no valuation of money, there's no concept of money, how can you insert the valuation of a mineral? So we they haven't cleaned that stuff up yet. So I don't want to get into that part with chapter 2. But from the first chapter, it says that the 26th verse, and God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, over the cattle, and over all the earth, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female. So that means that at the time of creation, that God created both man and woman. And in the creation of both man and woman, God imparted his essence into both of them equally. He did not make there was no partitioning or proportional assignment of God's essence to man or woman. And we need to understand that, because in understanding that, we get out of the misrepresentation, well, God took a rib from Adam and then, made woman, and woman was inferior. In the Quran, there's been a reference from what I've been researching that one of the reasons why some people who are using the Quran, who are Muslims and who are in Islam, one of the reasons why they devalue women is because they say, well, God took the left rib from Adam, and that made woman less than Adam. Well, there's some things that they're doing, what we've seen being done in Islam, being referenced to the Quran, which are improper. They're not right, and they need to straighten that stuff up. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to come and make some remarks about that a little later. So that's the first creation story. Then there is another creation story out of the Bible, and that is from the book of Jasher, which is referenced in the book of Samuel, the first or second book of Samuel. And it would appear, they would have us think that God had amnesia and decided to leave this book out of the Bible. In that account, in the book of Jasher, first chapter, it says, and when all these things were fulfilled, behold, Jehovah appeared in Eden and created man and made him to be an image of his own eternity. Again, you cannot have man being created without woman equally. Because in this book, it goes on to talk about the fact that as time came to pass, that man begot Cain. So if woman was not created at the same time, there's no way that Cain could have been born. So one of the things that we have made the mistake of doing is we read these texts, we hear them, but we don't listen. We're not listening. And the listening part translated into how we look at these books comes from studying and comparing. And not only that, but asking God to show us what we are looking at, to help us, because we can't talk to God. In Shiism, we don't believe in going through an intermediary. We believe in direct communication with our Creator. And so I'm made by God. I'm composed from God. I have the ability to take and speak to my Creator and have my Creator speak back to me. I just need to take the time to listen. So
thank you.
But wow. This is so very important because our women are a very important part of us. They are very important in the universe. They are very important in God's plan for the universe. If you don't have a righteous woman, you don't have man. So, with that being said, we need to look very carefully at what we are doing, especially as men. And women need to understand that you are not less than man. You are equal to man because you are provided the same essence from creation that God created me, God created you equally, did not partition any of that essence out, where it gave me 60% of God's essence and you 40% of God's essence. You got to really
That is
understand
great.
this,
That's
because
great.
it will dictate how you focus your place in the universe and your divine relationship with the Creator.
Thank you.
And, you know, when I listened to the presentation, I had never heard a presentation given like this. I've heard sermons where the preaching was, well, you know, because you supposedly involved Adam and you convinced him to eat the apple and this, that, and the other, that you're less than. Sin, you brought sin into the world. Well, that's not necessarily true. The reason why this is so important is that we live in a society that, as going through what we have gone through in history, we have been used and abused by other cultures. Other cultures came into Africa and co-opted our religious identity and claimed it to be their own. We have a lot of people walking around here claiming they're chosen people, but it would appear that what they chose to do is to come into another society and co-opt what they had and claim it to be their own. And
So
it's very interesting that we have been allowed to have impressed upon us that some people were so burdened that they were forced to build the pyramids in Africa. However, my research and what's been brought to my attention is that our range around this world in the beginning extended not only into Africa, but into Asia, into the Western Hemisphere, into America. So how do we explain the imposition on a group of people? Because we have pyramids in China. There are pyramids that were built in Mexico and other areas around this world that those who are in power do not want us to know about.
okay,
And if you go to a site, I was looking at a site that talked about the Africans in China, the African heritage of China. It's amazing. If you look at those pictures, if you look at the photographs, it's amazing what you see.
okay, Chief,
So, you know, as Dr. Karinga related to us in his more expository treatise found in the book, The African Intellectual Heritage,
okay.
he
Okay, I'm trying to get his attention, Chief. Yeah. Let me give Yudi.
Yes.
We're having a problem with his mic. Let me give you Yudi. Why don't you talk about what are your thoughts on what he has shared with us?
Oh, it's very, very you know, that's
Okay, are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, we're trying to give your mic was muted for a little bit. Let me give Yudi a chance to comment on some of the things that you said, and everyone else get a chance, and we'll come right back again, because what you said was just absolutely fabulous, and I like the fact that you were able to relate all of that. Okay, I think he's having a problem with his.
No, I'm saying,
go ahead.
DBI, you can, share the very important information. I just always wondered what would happen if, or what the narrative would be right now if Eve was created out of Adam's right rib as opposed to left. What is it about the left and the right that makes the left less than the right, right? Where you can look at it and say, you know, both of them need to coexist equally. There are people that are left-handed biologically. They come out using their left hand, and people that use their right. So it depends on your perspective and how you look at it. But anyway, he shared very important information, and one of the information that he shared was the idea of the patriarchy. of Abrahamic religions. And in my estimation, and just not my estimation, but as far as scholarship is concerned, if you're involved in natural theology and religious studies, then you get to find out that as far as Abrahamic religions are concerned, there's this idea that the reason why man has fallen from God's grace is because of a woman. So you have to blame the woman for the inadequacies of man. And if you look at some of the writings in the Bible, for example, man was perfect in the image of God, blah, 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 until Eve made Adam eat the apple. Then Adam falls from the grace of God because of Eve, even though the commandment to not eat the apple wasn't given to Eve, it was given to Adam. So Eve really had nothing to do with this communication between God and man in terms of righteousness. But there you go. So biblically speaking, the first, writing about how man fell from God's grace was blamed on Eve, was blamed on a woman. And then you go down and look at the commandment that was given to Lot not to look back at him and his family. And the only person that looked back was Lot's wife, and she got turned to, a pillar of salt. And then Samson and Delilah, Samson lost his strength because Delilah cut his head, so on and so forth. So for me, one of the patriarchal reasons for Abrahamic writings is the fact that I look at it as a way that religion tries to use women as a scapegoat for man's inability to coexist with his fellow human being, regardless of their creed or their color. Now, to go a little bit further than what Chief was, Ikenna was talking about, is about the role that women have in African traditional religion, right? And the differences in this role has nothing to do with biology, more of cultural conditions, just like I had talked about as far as Abrahamic religions is concerned. It has really nothing to do with geography. Women perform equal roles as far as native medicine is concerned and healing among many African people. As a matter of fact, a woman performed the role of a healer and native doctor, in the family first. They were the first healers. The woman and the child. The woman took care of the family, holistically before anybody else did, before you even went to the diviners. It was the woman's role within that family as a healer. This is where the healing practice began. And then beyond that, whatever it is that the woman in the family cannot mitigate, then they go outside and look for somebody who is professionally trained, right? As a healer and a diviner. And in African spirituality and medical practice, both of them go hand in hand. You have the Dibia Otrajas, you have the Dibia Ntrajas, you have people that deal with the psychological part of the healing process. And in African medicine, we also believe that not everything can be cured biologically. Western medicine cannot cure everything biologically. We believe that you can cure people biologically, but you can also cure them spiritually. There are spiritual reasons why people become sick physically. So you have to mitigate both of them in a lot of situations to come up with the ideal medical prescription for healing. So there's a relationship there. The one does not exist without the other. But as far as healing and native medicine is concerned, it is the woman in the family that is the first healer, right? And then due to some of the biological differences and what have you, you will find out that most Dibias are usually women that are beyond or, that have gotten into menopause and all that kind of stuff. They're older women and all that, and then they become diviners and all. So you have Dibias that are women in African cultures, not just Igbo culture, Yoruba, Ghana, what have you. In all of sub-Saharan African cultures, women also play that role as healers, as diviners, as spiritualists, as doctors. One of the unfortunate situations that we have in Africa is the fact that because of slavery and colonization, we were not allowed to naturally evolve. to the point where right now I feel that it's absolutely imperative that we develop institutions that strictly deal with holistic medicine, because that's how Africans used to operate medically before the incursion of the European to our shores with the Bible and the Arab to our shores with the Quran. So you have medicine that deals with the physical makeup of a person and all the things and diseases that affect your being. Then you have the spiritual part of your existence and all those things that can affect you spiritually, that can make you sick. Then in the middle, you bring both of them together to create holistic institutions that can be run by men or women, because men and women provide expertise on both sides of the coin. So really, the way we look at women in our traditional societies today, it's not the way we looked at them before we were colonized. Things have really changed now, and we look at things from the perspective of those people that colonized us, because religiously speaking, with their spiritual philosophies, they minimize the importance of women in the society and the role of women in the society. And as a colonized people, we have now incorporated that into what I call invented traditions, where we now look at women as less than. But in reality, it's never been that way until we were colonized. That's my take on it.
Thank you. And I just wanted to add this. When we talk about the role of African women, and let's speak about the spirituality, if you look at mythology, then you can, in looking at our mythology, that's where you actually find out what Africans believe in terms of the role of women. You know, now when we look at the role of women, we are looking at it from the perspective of the European. Okay, we're not looking at it from the traditional African perspective. And if you look at the mythology of African religion, the mythology, when a woman tells it, and Ikenna had said it earlier, we used European terminology, okay, which makes it very masculine. But if you listen to a woman tell you about the origin of humanity, it always starts with a woman. Yep. In Togo, the same thing. In the Ibibios, the same thing. In Ghana, the same thing. In Eastern Africa, it's the same thing. They talk about woman bringing forth the male, which is, I mean, that's just common sense. That's just common sense. That's the way it is. We bring forth life, and that life is either male or female. But if you listen to mythology, if you listen to the female Dibias, when they talk about how life began, they don't talk about it in terms of where a woman, the side of a woman came from the side of a male and all of that. They talk about this, the fact that humanity was born from feminine energy. Their description of God is feminine. So it depends on who you're talking to. That's how you determine how life began. If you talk to a woman, which most people don't talk to them, so but we know. So we know what we know. But if you go to these churches, they tell you something totally different. I ask each one of you, if you have the time, to read John Mbiti. John Mbiti is an African writer, and he wrote about the role of women in African traditional religion. And he specifically states how important it is that Africans should not just embrace Eurocentric concept of how life began. If you want to know how life began, look at the mythology of Africa, and not the invented ones, the new ones. I'm talking about originally. The mythology are spoken by women. Chiadozie, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are simple. Combining what the three of you have said so far, let me be brief because time is running out. I think you have time. We don't end till 1:30. So I mean, because it's a question of patriarchy versus matriarchy, which is just what you just concluded. It depends from which side of the coin you are telling the story. However, there's a difference between Occidental, Western, Eurocentric approach of patriarchy to the African approach to patriarchy. And Western approach to patriarchy is based on dualism. And here I make a distinction between dualism and duality, as we teach in African philosophy down here. In dualism, there's a recognition of two opposites, male and female. But the problem is that these two are regarded as equal and opposite. So when two things are equal and opposite, how do we resolve the problem of two captains with equal knowledge, equal rank, equal importance? How will they run the ship? So there's a problem of antagonistic relationship, which will be resolved either by way of elimination or subsumption. And so what you find in Western patriarchy, which has rubbed off into the Caucasians and the Semitics, it's either the male usually swallows the female. And if you see that in the concept of Trinity, Egyptian Trinity, that is a matriarchy, has female on top of the hierarchy of a Trinity is the god Osset, Isis sitting at the head. By the time Constantine will come in, the woman was removed totally from the hierarchy of the Trinity. It all became male, and a different position was created for the woman, known as the Mother of God. Okay, but if we look at all the stories of Adam and Eve and blah blah blah, Eve caused Adam to eat the fruit. It's not only with Western patriarchy. In African patriarchy, you have some similar stories, like stories that the heaven was closer to us before, and a woman annoyed God by flaunting her menstrual thing before the heavens, or letting her pestle for pounding touch the heavens. So God had to recede further from us. Igwe had to recede further from us. So those kind of stories have been there, here and there. But the way I look at it, you can look at these stories of the role of women from two sides. You can look at it from the side of one trying to denigrate women. And then secondly, you can look at it from the side that women always grow faster than men, spiritually, physically, psychically, psychologically. Women grow faster than us. And actually, we may even say that women are spiritually stronger than us. They may not be physically stronger, but they are spiritually stronger. But I am not saying physically that women are not stronger, because there are women who are equally strong or even stronger than male, because we know the story of the Amazon. But spiritually speaking, psychologically speaking, women are stronger, which is one of the reasons you find that women live longer than men. Most throughout the world, women live longer than men because psychologically they are stronger, and the woman is created, like the Igbo will say, the woman is created to cope with pain. I don't know how many of us men can carry a pregnancy for 9 seconds. When we talk about 9 months, so that is there. Then the truth of the matter is that the earth we live in is a female, while the sky in Igbo is male. The sky is male. The earth we live in it's female. That's why it's akin with fertility. So the story of it is usually the woman that only opens the eye of the man, and that is why the man needs a wife. And if you look at a man who is a man, a complete man who has patience, who is married men who are very sensible succeed more than bachelors, and that's because of their wife. The woman is always there pointing your limitations and weaknesses to you, urging you on, either through petting you with words or advising you. So by whichever way it goes, the woman is always there to propel the man. And one of the reasons why we seem to have more female population than male is that the male pregnancy aborts so easily, but the female pregnancy is difficult to abort. That's naturally male pregnancies abort easily, but naturally female pregnancy is difficult to just abort. So you find that the female have this character. So the issue of trying to emphasize patriarchy may be a way. That's the way I'm looking at it. It's my personal view. It may be a way by which us men try to create some safety net for ourselves, because we do know spiritually that women are stronger. We do know that emotionally, psychologically, women are stronger, and we try to protect ourselves. But we could do it better following African patriarchy that operates on duality. And duality says that there are two opposite things. These two opposite things, because they are opposite, one has what the other does not have. So there is no issue of equality. We are not struggling for equality. We just want to play our roles. So that is why you find that every typical traditional Black African community is anchored on male and female institutions. You find in spirituality there are male deities, male priestesses, and so on, and then male gods, deities, male priests, female deities, goddesses, and female priestesses. Then if you go there, this thing they say the woman does not break the collar. Oh, ashashi. Women break collar in their shrines. Like Okedibia. If you break collar now, we'll be happy to eat it because it's motherhood. I will chop away because will give me longevity and protection. So that it's a question that, we have said it all. It's a question of us returning back to how we view the world. From the point of view of duality, duality allows for complementarity. Allow the women their world and let the women have their world. So we complement each other. There's no need to antagonize and begin to eliminate or subsume. And so the best way to look at it is to look at it from the point of view of motherhood. Mother is for both male and female. The way the mother will fight for the female is the way she will fight for the male. Sometimes the female may even feel jealous that the mother is more protective of the male. And sometimes when it is only, you have only male and female in the society, you find that the female are overprotective of their brother. The same thing when you have a society, a family of say one female and 4 boys, the boys tend to be overprotective of their female. So there is this natural inclination for male to be drawn towards women, female, and vice versa. I think that's the way we should look at it.
Thank you. And I would like to get excellent. I would like to get the Ashiki's input. Ashiki, how are you? Can you hear me? I'm not hearing you, Ashiki. I don't know what's going on with people's phones today. He's not hearing me. Okay, while we're waiting for Ashiki, and I can't get, he seemed to get Tikena. So I'm going to ask the input of some ladies here as we move along and wait for Ashiki to get in. So let me ask for the perspective of my friend here, Akachi Azubike. Akachi, you've been listening. As a woman, what are your thoughts? And I'll bring in our sister Simone Jamu as well. What are your thoughts? Akachi, again, we're not hearing you. What is, okay, here we go.
Okay, there we are. Can you hear me?
All right.
Okay. It's great to hear from our men. I mean, my entire life, when I think of church, the church is ran by women, but the pastor gets all the credit. Without the women in the church, there is no institution. And so when I thought of also the creation stories, the mythologies, and how they impact how we think of ourselves, how men and women think of women. I know one of the stories that I came across is
Turn on
that
that light, please.
the woman was disturbing the male in the house of God, and she wasn't supposed to go into his OB, I think it is. And because she went in to peek to find out what he was doing, it exploded. And so she was kind of at least what I saw, she was the problem again, because she was supposed to mind her business and not go into his house. And so she caused destruction, which created the universe. So I mean, it's a positive and a negative. But I think the mythologies definitely impact us, but I really appreciate what everyone has said, and it's really about complementarity and understanding that there's beauty in both of us, and we come from the same source, essentially.
That's right. Thank you so much. Now, Ashika,
Yes.
it's your turn now. It's your turn. You want to share?
How you doing today?
Fine. How are you?
Very good. It's an honor and pleasure. And I have a little different take on it, but I understand it. Due to I have the honor and pleasure of being born by the Queen Mother, my Queen, Queen Mother, and from that aspect, we've looked and we've learned a lot of traditions, and we've learned a lot. And by sitting at her footsteps, I've learned the impact and the power of a woman. And then from that, we've also learned the impact and the power of the powerful religions that be today, how they stripped away our identity, stripped away our culture, stripped away us as a being of who we truly are, because we existed before King James Version. We existed before there was a writing of Abrahamic writing. We existed before that time. And to this day, we've indoctrinated their belief on what it is of creation, which is not true. We existed before that was written to be. So what it is by us being so detached from who we are, we have now generationally taken on what they say who we are. And that is not true. We know that women, we call Earth Mother Earth. We don't call Earth Daddy Earth. We call Earth Mother Earth. This is what creation comes from. It comes from a mother. We as men plant the seed, but mother is the nurturer, mother is the teacher, and then we learn from other men. You know, so that's the first teacher that we have is through our mother. Men know how to treat women through women. We don't know how to treat women through men. We look how men treat women, but a woman tells a man what is correct. A woman gauges that. A woman gives us strength to carry on. A woman gives us that power in that direction at times to say, well, you need to step it up. You need to be better. You need to do this. So that comes from a woman. When you look at the school system, a lot of women are the actual teachers, even to our adolescents, to adulthood. So that's what we have to understand. The power of women is equal to men. And we play different roles. When you go back in depth into, let's say, South African cultures, you will see the equality there. The men go out and hunt, the men go fish, women takes care of the whole village, takes care of everything when the man is not there. And even to today in our household, the woman takes care of that household when we're not there. So there's different roles, but there's equal roles. And when we look at the religions that we now, I'll say by the masses, been forced to follow, when you look at that, it takes the women's equality away. When you look at the whole biblical structure, what word comes from a woman? What part of the whole structure is written by a woman? What part is either for the sanctity of women? The whole thing puts women in a third class, fourth class, fifth class, not even of an equality. You look at the mother of Jesus, has really no power. She's just a mother of Jesus. But when you look at how Catholicism has taken away some of our beliefs in terms of how they've created saints, that's ancestor worship. Not ancestor worship, but that's believing in your ancestors to have power. So, but then when you look at the Christianity side of things, they take that away. and then they even take Mary out of it. So they give all power to one man, and that comes through Adam, and then they say the rib and all that. But then when a man dies, we still have the same amount of ribs. So that shows, so that shows how that is not true. So we need to come down to a reality and understand our Africanism, because what the Europeans haven't realized what they've done, they have called us African, meaning continental. That means that we encompass the whole place. When you look at Europeans, they encompass one little country. They're Irish, they're German, they're let's say French. So they encompass one little piece, but then they carved us out through colonialism to make us a part of those little pieces. But we represent ourselves here in America and around the world as African, meaning continental. So we are bigger and we're greater as a people, and we must understand that. And what has been taken away from us is our self, meaning that the woman is the one that teaches us. So when you look at our society today, we've gone astray from who we are, because when you look at the men with their pants sagging and things like that, usually it'll be a woman that said, put yourself together, pull your pants up. Don't walk around with saggy pants looking like you're wearing a diaper. Pull that up. So that's where it comes from. Pull yourself together. And as a man, we do look for the leadership of women, because I was led by a woman who was my mother. But then again, that also taught me the standard that I have to have for myself, and also the standard that I have to have for my daughters. That they can't just bring anyone home. That person has to be a man of standard or come from a family of standard. So then that individual and that child knows what it is of equality, of us working together. And that's what it's going to take for us as a people and us as a whole, is to just work together. There is no separatism. There is just one. And that's how family is made.
That is wonderful. That is awesome. And I would like to introduce Simone, and then I'll go to Chief Ikenna. Simone,
yes,
what do you want to add to that?
Yes, I would like to add. For me, I grew up in the church, AME, on my father's side, which is African Methodist, and then Catholic on my mother's side. And then when I was older, in my religious journey or my spiritual journey, I went into apostolic and things like that. But one thing, that was missing, and since I was a child, because I'm very intuitive and my ancestors always came to me. But when I was in the church, I did share that before, and that was totally shut down. Oh, you don't talk to the dead.
Right.
Or you don't connect with your ancestors. You don't do that. And, the Catholic side, they would do that. But when you get into the other side, no, you don't do that. That's evil. And so for me, I felt so displaced being in the church. My ancestry, my tradition, my African tradition was coming through me, and me not even knowing or knowing what was going on. As far as being intuitive, as far as my ancestors coming to me, as far as me always having a desire to honor and respect my ancestors, all of those things were coming through, me, even though I was didn't even know of a divine, the divine as being any feminine attributes, because they've taken it fully out of the church, totally out. But then I'm seeing all of these powerful women in my family, all of these powerful women that are doing so much, and a majority of women in the church that are pretty much running the church, but all of these men getting the credit for all of the things that they're doing. It was so refreshing to me when I got outside of that and learned about the African tradition, learned about the divine in a feminine way. Learned about, just like he was saying, Mother Earth is a representation of the divine feminine. We cannot survive here without the plants and the fruit and the food that comes up. Just like when you have a child and the milk comes through your breast before they had Similac and things like that, that is what kept the baby alive. And so we have to honor the woman. The problem is now, and when I got awakened to this, the problem is now why we have so many issues on this planet is because we don't honor the mother. We don't honor the divine mother. We don't honor the mother on this planet. We're eating foods and all types of things that the mother didn't create and wonder why we have health problems. We're doing a whole lot of things. We have no respect, not for the Mother Earth, not for the woman. We have no respect. And that is why we're wondering why we're having so many issues, or why the planet is having so many issues, because we have to start respecting the divine mother.
Thank you.
We have to. And a lot of people don't understand that. They look at it, it's even been put as evil to look at the divine as a woman. You know, and that is just totally unacceptable. I don't care what anyone says or what their religious theology. Look at nature. Even in the Bible, it says you look at the spiritual, look at the physical things, look at the things around you to know what the spiritual is. It is not natural not to have a woman involved in creation. It is just not natural. Where do a man have a baby? Where do a man create? Any plant. If you look at any plant, you got to have a woman and a male plant. Any animal. Where does it, or most of them, where do you know, the earth, if you look around, if you look at nature, it tells you who God is. God is showing who God is through nature. And we have to start respecting the divine woman. It's out of balance.
It's out of balance. Thank you so much. That is so true. I mean, you guys are saying it all today. I just want to read something that I'll bring Ikenna. Another school of thought is about the universe balancing opposites to create equality. Hence, you have a warrior who can conquer nations, but flawed by a beautiful woman. That's true. Samson and Delilah, anyone? That's from Obioyo. Thank you. That's a good one. Now, I noticed Ikenna is trying to say something. What do you want to add to the conversation?
Well, I can barely hear what everybody else is saying. What I'd like to do is really get to the meat of what I'm trying to get to. First of all, there are no references to women or their additive nature in the Bible. The only place where you will see any reference to women in a book is in the Apocrypha called the Book of the Gospel of Mary. And you will find that in the Nag Hammadi library. Those are the books that were left out of the Bible.
Yes.
Fortunately, there is some reference about women. There's a book of women, the Book of Woman in the Quran. It's a little hard to read, but there are several Quranic women scholars who have taken on the challenge. Amina Wadud, in her book called The Quran and Woman, talks about what emerges from the Quran is that there is a teleology that is a purpose for human creation. And according to this teleology, the human being is a Khalifa, a moral agent that holds the secret of order, holds the secret order of the divine, of the creator, or of Allah Chineke on earth. So the purpose of women, and therefore their main identity or personality, is to be agents of the divine on earth. Now, I said I was going to take on everything. In the Quran, you hear today a lot of different things by people who are supposed to be Muslims following Islam. Well, first of all, they need to read the Quran, because the Quran asserts that men and women have equal dignity. In the Quranic worldview, men and women's actions are worth the same in the presence of Allah or God. mental values, virtues are valuable for both men and women, and Allah appreciates them. The Quran explicitly states that men and women are equal in the eyes of God. Furthermore, the Quran forbids female infanticide, instructs Muslims to educate daughters as well as sons, insists that women have the right to refuse a prospective husband. Just a whole list of things that people who are misusing and claiming that they are Islam and they know the Quran are misrepresenting. But what I really want to get to is this, getting back to the equal essence of men and women. What we do today is that we have gotten to a point, and I'm going to talk about this in America, that we have misused and misabused our women to the point where we refer to them as bitches. So how do you call the woman who is the equal essence, has an equal essence from God, how do you call her a bitch? Would you call your mother that? If you call your female counterpart that, you'll call your mother that. And what's even worse, if you will call your woman that, you will call God that, because God created her and imparted essence into her. Now, some people are going to say, well, I never call God a bitch. Well, you know what? That's like saying, I see the sun, I see the light, I feel the warmth of the sun, but it's not of the sun. And the problem that imposes on us as a people is that if you are calling your female a bitch, then that is why other people in our society do not respect our females. We are supposed to take and protect our females with our life. Okay? That's why you have people going in, killing, shooting Breonna Taylor, having these shootings. Police are pulling our females out of their cars, throwing them up against the car, beating them in public. You know why? Because if you don't respect your woman, if you call her a bitch, then that other person, entity, is looking at her, and that's what they conceive her to be. So they will treat her that way. And your sons, well, you know, there's a saying that they call about a son of a you know what. So when they are abusing your sons, look at what you have done. And you know where that comes from, and I'm getting to this. In our society, our music does not represent what we are about. You know, there used to be a time in our musical anthology and collective where you heard about love in our songs, in our music. We expressed that. I love my father. I always love my mama. I love my female. I'll walk 25 miles to get to my female. Ain't no mountain high enough for me to get to my female, for me to do for my woman. Okay? We have allowed ourselves to adopt a cultural imposition now that all we hear now is our woman is a bitch or a whore. We don't hear nothing about love. You don't hear nothing about love in that music. I have been listening to a station that's been playing older music for the last week, and I can tell you how many times the word love is expressed toward our women, towards our parents, our mothers, and our fathers, but not today. Now, and let me share something with you because of why that's so important. From one of the psychological manuscripts regarding the psychology of music, scientists have singled out a dozen different areas of the brain that respond to music. But the 5 regions having the most significant impact are the temporal lobe, the amygdala, which is the emotional switchboard of the brain, the frontal lobe, the cerebellum, and the hippocampus. Okay? So music impacts our ability to relate to other people. It impacts the ability for us to relate to our women. For us, how do we perceive our women? Do we love them? Do we care enough to defend them with our lives? Do we care enough to respect them? do we care enough not to let other people who are outside of our culture disrespect our women? Evidently not, because those people who are getting paid, who are, like they said, colonialism, those people in the record industry, whoever they are, and from whatever group they're with, don't represent. First of all, they don't represent the general population of the Black population, and neither do we have enough representatives who are in the music industry who are making the money for them in positions of power. Just like the issue with the football, because we don't have enough Black coaches. Well, we don't have enough Blacks or people of color in the music industry that can control the input and the output of what's coming out to us back into our neighborhoods. Because, like it is, we all know, Ray don't have no planes to be bringing drugs into our community.
Thank you.
There used to be a time when those of us who were engaged in drug dealing in our community didn't even have a car. They would bring those things in. They would bring drugs into our community. They would pick up the money and give them the supply of drugs. Now, what they'll do is that at least they'll give them an SUV, but we don't have any planes where we're bringing in drugs. So we don't have people in the music industry who are making decisions about what's coming in our community. And the psychological damage and misrepresentations in terms of brainwashing is what we see now. Okay? We are seeing it because you don't hear it in the music. You don't hear anything in the music.
Okay. Now somebody was raising their hands. Akachi. Okay. All right.
Just very quickly, I wanted to say, I'm not going to use the word, but the mother effer, when you dissect what that is saying, that's what we're doing to the divine feminine.
Yes.
We're literally the earth. That's why we can't breathe quality air, drink quality.
I'm not sure. I understood that the mic might have been off.
No. She's we have Akachi speaking right now. We'll get back to you in a minute. You're okay. We heard everything you said. Akachi, go ahead.
That is
I can't hear you.
What we're doing to the planet is a macroscopic example of what we're doing to the divine feminine on a microscopic level. And so because she's been reduced, that is the imbalance, and that's what it's creating. The abuses against women, the rape, the wars on the planet. That was one of the first moments when I knew that something was wrong, because I said no mother would have children to send her children out to fight and die for some foolishness. We would try to find another way diplomatically to solve the issue rather than go to war. And that is why I believe that this imbalance is plaguing the planet in every aspect: food, water, women, girls, children, as well as our men, because we're one another. We're a reflection of one another. So even though it may seem like he may think that everything is okay in this patriarchal society, it's actually damaging him as well. That's all I wanted to add.
Absolutely. Before we're going to go to UD in a minute, but or charge UD, but I want to play something right quick, just a little advertisement, and remind us who founded the Chiism Godian religion, and he should always be remembered and honored. So give me 1 second, all of you, please stay where you are.
anyekele ya, anyekele ya, narangozi ya, ihomo mirani anyekele ya, anyekele ya, narangozi ya. I stand in the perfecting presence of Chineke. Right where I am, Chineke is. Chineke is in the midst of me, creating divine order through divine love. I fear nothing, seen and unseen. All the goodness of the universe I claim this day as my divine inheritance. God is power, I am powerful. Chineke is peace, I am peace-filled. Chineke is truth, I am wrapped in truth, a manifestation of the divine. Greater is the power of Chineke in my mind than any condition in the world. Greater is the power of God, Chineke, in my body than any affliction in the world. The power of Chineke renews, reaffirms, reassures all that I am. All that I am, Chineke is. All that is noble, I am. This truth I claim as my divine inheritance. Ise, Ashe, Ise, Ashe, Ashe, Yagazie, Ofo. Iyomo mirani anyekele ya, anyekele ya, narangozi ya. Iyomo mirani anyekele ya, anyekele ya, narangozi ya. Iyomo mirani anyekele ya, anyekele ya, narangozi ya. Iyomo mirani anyekele ya, anyekele ya.
Just a little there
Okay.
to say thank you to His Holiness Ahanke Oke Onyoha. Had he not had the wherewithal and the putting up with all that Nigeria dished out to all of us, all those great people that wanted to make sure that we understood that we are just as powerful as everyone else, we will not have Godianism, we will not have Chiism. So to him, we are very grateful. Namdi Azikiwe and all the others, there's so many of them, but it was actually Ahanke Oke that manifested that dream of not creating, because he didn't create it, but he reasserted in our minds the importance of going back and reclaiming what is ours, and that is our spirituality. Now, at this time, I'm going to go to Yudi, and I'm going to give each one of you 2 minutes to round it all up, so that we can look forward to the next time. I think this has been a fantastic show. You guys have been awesome, every last one of you. So I'm going to give each one of you just 2 minutes. If you take more than 2 minutes, I'm going to cut you off. So take 2 minutes. There we go. So we'll start with Yudi.
Yeah, like they will say, here comes Yudi again with his stories. So, food for thought, just want to briefly put something in your mind. We are multi-cell organisms.
Yes.
All of God's creation in this world are multi-cell, except for two major examples. One is the amoeba, and the other one is the paramecium. These are single-cell organisms. Everything else is multi-cell, which also means to create humanity, animals, plants, blah, 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 you need the male and the female, both of equal importance.
Yes.
The male is no more important than the female, and the female is no more important than the male.
Right.
Put them together, life flourishes,
That's
plants, animals,
yes,
everything
right.
under the sun flourishes and continues to procreate for eternity, until maybe an asteroid comes in and blows everything up, and there we go. Now, here's what I want you to think about. Some animals, when the male and the female procreates, the female eats the male immediately, and that's the end of you. That's power. Female only needs you for procreation. Beyond that, they don't need you. You're not taking care of the young. The female has to do that. Secondly, take a lion pride, for example, or any animal, any animal in the animal kingdom. The female is always attracted to the most powerful male. If you're weak, the female will not procreate with you. For you to procreate, you need to be dominant. So perhaps as human beings, we also practice that. Women don't like weak men. So men, to be able to get the woman that they want, need to be powerful. And how do they do it? By going beyond what God expects of us morally, which is to live in peace. So we control, we acquire, we assert our dominance just so that we can attract the woman that we want. So maybe that's why we behave the way we behave. We don't value women because in our mind, we think that we just have to be powerful to be able to get what it is that we want. So we don't treat the woman the way we're supposed to. So just food for thought. It might sound crazy, but it's going on out there right now.
It's not crazy. It sounds just about right to me. Ochaja, Josie, we got 2 minutes.
Yeah, I would just like us to emphasize, like our most senior member here, Ikenna said.
Yes.
We no longer emphasize that feminine aspect of the woman in our today's music. Traditionally, what a woman is known for is she's the custodian of culture, and that is why the earliest form of society started with matriarchy. And that is why in parts of Africa where matriarchy has persisted, like you have in Abreba, the female is not married out because she's the custodian of culture. And Ezenwani Abreba is the custodian of Abreba culture. Should the Eze of Abreba mess up, she goes and locks up the palace and dislodges Eze and locks up the place and holds the key until the right person comes in. Now, the thing there is that being the custodian of culture, the woman represents the emblem of morality and ethics. And that is why our ancestors emphasized the issue of character, agua, iwa. But today, all that we emphasize about the woman is not about her feminine beauty, it's just about her bodily beauty. And all that the man thinks about the woman is the sex object, infinitum. That is why we can easily refer to women as bitch. If we realize the ontological constitution of the woman, then we will realize the centrality of womanhood, femininehood in our lives. And then we will now edify that. Once we edify that, there will be peace and tranquility in our world.
Thank you. Absolutely.
They will.
2 minutes for, we go to Ashiki.
Okay. Yes, what I would say, we as a people, what we have to do is come together and then look at who we are. And when it comes to the woman's side of things, it's also bringing back the feminism back into the women, because when we look around and we look at the modern women, they are taking more of a masculine role in terms of when we look at society. You might pull up to a woman today and she might be playing her music louder than the man. And then what we have to do is look at us as society and bring ourselves back to who we are and not be led by other groups. And that's why when Uncle said the B word, when that is something that our society has adapted, that when you look at a Chinese person would never call a woman that. and these other groups. We've never called our women that until it was paid, until people were paid to call each other that. And that's what we have to take back our society and discredit the ones who are doing this to our society, find out who they are and take them out, because this is the destruction of our society, and we don't see them doing it to their own society. You will never find a European making rock music degrading their women, and because their society is not going to allow it. So that's when it comes back to us. We have to stand up in our communities and say that this is not accepted, and then set the standard. Because when I was growing up, the elders set the standard. Now it's the youth and the other groups setting the standard of who we are. We must shut them down and let people know who we are, and let them know the power of a woman, because the women are the ones who will first step up to say enough is enough. So I applaud the women that stands up for the righteousness of our people, and I back them. And thank you all.
Thank you. Timon, do you have a parting word?
Yes, I would just
You
like
got
to
2 minutes.
Okay, I would just like to say that we have to, and I'm speaking with the men also, because I know with work, I've been watching like some of the things that I've been seeing a lot in the media on YouTube and things like that, is that a lot of Black men are, putting down the Black woman. There's a lot of putting the Black woman down. The reason why the marriage rates and all of these things, they're putting it all on the Black woman. A lot of things are being put on the Black woman and not honoring and respecting publicly the Black woman. We have to get back to honoring and respecting the Black woman, because it first starts from home. If Black men are not respecting Black women, who else are going to respect Black women? So we have to, I think if we change our mindsets, and I think a lot of it does come from the music and has conditioned a lot of our men to think that way, and even some of the women, because women will call each other the B word, which is unacceptable. We have to start having a little bit more respect for the African and the Black woman, and so we just have to stop all of the tearing the Black woman down.
That's right.
So that's very important.
That is so important. Chief Ikenna, last words. You got 2 minutes. Chief Ikenna, you got 2 minutes.
I can't hear you.
You have 2 minutes.
Can you? Okay. Hopefully, you can hear me.
2 minutes.
Okay. I just want to say this, that I think what we've discussed today is very important, and I would like to give credit to Mr. Louis Farrakhan, because this is the first time that I've heard anyone have a lecture on the divine value of women. So I cannot take full credit for this. I had listened to a program that he had part of his discussion, and I felt that I could expand on that part of the discussion. It was very enlightening for me, because it allowed me to do research and expand my own knowledge. And again, I just want to say in closing that Black men, you need to understand who you are and where you come from. And most importantly, Black women, please understand that you have a divine purpose and value as you walk this earth. And you are truly the mothers of civilization. And like I said, if you don't believe what I'm saying, you need to go and look at some of these videos. You need to go look at the information on Africans in Korea, in China, in Japan. Dr. Ivan Van Sertima has a book that's written on the African presence in early Asia, which is very helpful. But
Okay.
When you see for yourself,
Okay.
when you see for yourself, then you will see actually what you are part of, that how big your role is in the universe, and what more you have to accomplish. So you should never take yourself as being less than a part of the divine essence of the Creator for what you are, and never let anyone take that away from you, and achieve your spiritual purpose in life, and go on about your life and do what God would have you to do, and meet what your purpose is. That's all I have to say in closing. And if it's offended anyone, well, you know what? We have to look out for our people. Our people are important.
Yes.
And whenever we see injustice in any form, as traditional African priest, I'm going to speak up about it. I'm 72 years old. I don't have anything to worry about. I have someone that told me one day when I met them, who was from a Baptist background. I have a friend, the mother of some people that I grew up with, and she was out of town and come back in, and I went to see her, and she was asking me what I was doing, and I told her, I said, well, what I'm doing. I said, and it might be a little precarious for me. She says, well, you know something, I'm going to tell you this. She says, you're going to die someday, so you might as well die for something. So those of us who are speaking up for what is right, we have no fear. And I have no fear, because I'm going to continue to speak up for what's right. Black women, take your position and be proud of who you are. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you. I got you. Thank you very much, Chief. He had to get it out. He had to get it out.
Okay, I get it out really quickly.
You got 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
First, thank you all, Dalunu, for everything that has been said, for the platform, for Chiism, Ghanaianism. I think what stands out to me in my spiritual journey is this idea that of submission, and submit means under, sub. If you just look at the prefix of that word, it is usually you're a subject, you are submerged under. And I think that when our brothers realize that we as males and females are divine sovereign beings, and allow ourselves to submit to our chi, to our Creator, that is the most important submission that we should embark on in our life's journey. And that will allow us to relate to one another in a very harmonious and complementary way, rather than this idea of lording over, slave and master dominance over other. That is creating chaos.
That's right.
And disorder and imbalance. And so for our brothers that do feel confident and comfortable, and they respect that about me, and I've seen that with, you know, men in my life, father figures, I appreciate that, because when they walk in their divine being and allow a woman to do so, it is very attractive, because it shows that, as Dibia Achoja Udi said, you know, he's confident and he's strong, and we want men who are confident and dominant and strong in their being, and not intimidated by women like ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to thank all of you for, you know, participating in this awesome discussion. Those of you who watched this program on Chiism Live on Facebook, and then African Spirituality on YouTube, I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all the participants, the speakers today. But I want to leave my own thought. This is very important, because the subject is not going to go away. There's so much in this subject that still has to be discussed in the future. But I just want to remind us that before colonialism, you know, before the people came to the motherland, our people operated as a matriarchal system, not a patriarchal system as we are today. You know, we as women back then, we were equal in everything, and if not more, the majority of the time. So we were the queens, and we created the kings. In Ghana,
Yes.
women are known as the king makers.
Mhm.
You know, so you're not going to be a king. As a matter of fact, your bloodline have to come from the female for you to be crowned king. So I'm not saying this in any way to say we are more important. I'm just saying that in our culture, African women were very important. So all this putting us less than is something that was brought to our shores. It was never the way the men looked at us. It never was. So we need to look at our women the way we used to, the way our ancestors did. And that is the only way you're going to have harmony and you're going to have peace in this world. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have another awesome show next Sunday, and I hope you will join us. So on that note, let me take a moment now and just thank those. What? Oh.
Suffer for world. Now your fault be that. Me I say, now your fault be that. Suffer for world. Amen. Enjoy for heaven. Amen. Christians go they yab. In spirit from heaviness. Muslims go they call Allahu Akbar. Suffer for world. Enjoy for heaven. Christians go they yab. In spirit from heaviness. Muslims go they call Allahu Akbar. Open your eye everywhere. Archbishop na miliki, Pope na enjoyment, Imamu na gbalado. Archbishop na miliki, Pope na enjoyment, Imamu na gbalado.